why people speed up. And I think that has to do with a very amazing illusion that eventually, just like science has the illusion that we can eliminate the unknown. There is sort of like, the encyclopedias, the French encyclopedias, we haven't used enough thinking, enough research.
Yes.
But there is still this terrible evil virus, but we're going to catch it.
Yes.
And then we're going to find a way so it will never mutate.
Yes.
So the fantasy of eliminating that the final encyclopedia that is like a chain around all causalities, and we have banned any dependency on anything that is sacred and divine, and that horrible horde nature that does with us anything it wants and gives birth anytime it wants to give birth and
can be finally dominated and controlled.
Can be controlled.
But underneath this speed is a devastating panic.
That's right.
What I see in the eyes of almost everyone as I travel the world is panic, extreme panic. And people speed up their lives, do more and more as a way of assuaging this deep dread, this hysteria of what's happening, this terror of death, this terror of the world disintegrating. And of course that only creates more disintegration and destruction. It doesn't heal anything.
Because really it's driven by this idea that at one point I move so fast and get so much done that I have it all.
Well, also that you may be 6 feet ahead of death, 6 feet ahead of the destruction, or that in some way you'll have done so much that you'll have earned God's grace and that you'll be protected, you'll be safe, you'll be a good person.
Whatever threatening monsters comes into my life, I just push the delete button.
Right. You can just cyber attack your own demons.
It will vanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
so
this very scary and very frightening.
Yeah.
And very sad.
And then the counter movement, which was very necessary, is still very necessary, is very useful in terms of people going on retreats and people doing meditation practices. But eventually, the natural course of life needs to become a continuous
That's right.
interaction and moving together between the contemplative and the vita contemplativa and the vita activa.
It's like Indian music, when you're talking, I had this vision inside of being at a concert, a great concert on Indian music with Ravi Shankar, and this wonderful plump woman came and sat down first, and she is just plucking one string continuously, and then the tabla can do whatever it wants, and the zither can do whatever it wants, but it's held together in the embrace of this steady pulse of attention and of peace. What Eckhart Tolle calls the power of now, that you're uniting, so that being peaceful does not mean that you don't act, that you don't create, but that those actions and that creativity spring from a fountain of deep, peaceful strength. And that's the key to everything.
You are aware and you're in the presence of the ground tone that carries it.
That's it.
You move your little boat with great effort maybe at certain times.
Yes.
But you still know that you're in the river.
Yes.
That the main current
and the river is carrying you.
The river.
Yes.
And it will reach the ocean.
Yes.
And it will dissolve in the ocean. And it doesn't help if you stand at the banks and you do research on water by getting, a fish out and cutting it up,
Yes.
which is modern science, is all a process of separation.
Yes.
And you take the water out and you analyze it. No, you have to get wet, you have to swim.
Yes.
Or you have to get into your boat and then not fight the current,
Right.
but swim with the current. And then there's still plenty of you to do. It doesn't mean that you are, only, in the story of Tristan, and it's only Tristan at one point is in the boat without oars,
Right.
and is then carried to the right place,
Yes.
the only place.
In fact, only then can he be carried to the right place.
Which
That's
is a
the
beautiful
paradox.
metaphor,
Yes.
but it doesn't mean that he didn't have to do a lot of work beforehand.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean that he doesn't get out of that boat and the next challenge will be waiting for him.
Well, it's one of the things that as a spiritual teacher is most difficult both to experience myself and also to teach, is the necessity of surrender.
Yeah.
And that surrender is not weakness or passivity, it's actually the strongest thing you ever do. And
That's
it
right.
requires infinite amount of inner experience and profound spiritual discipline before you can truly, with trust and with faith, say to life, I trust you, I love you, I give myself to you, I rely on you, I rest in you, and I know that whatever happens, something far deeper, wiser, more intelligent than myself is going to carry me home. And that is the only way to live a truly open life, but it's the only way to live in a time like this. And I wondered if you'd love to read the poem that we chose for this particular section.
We are again at trust your life.
Trust your life.
Trust your life.
Yes.
And then the Arabs would say, and tie up your camel. You know,
Yeah.
actually they say trust God.
And tie up your
And
camel
tie up
first.
your
That was
camel.
the prophet.
And I
God
think
bless him.
in the year 2012, I would say, trust your life and get offline.
Yeah. You're speaking to the converted.
All right. Devotion.
I love this poem.
What people desire so furiously leads to battle, blood, and guilt. Once you find your home in nature, the earth becomes your holy home, and every person is your kin. Everywhere throughout this world, winds blow and water falls, and blue skies and precious jewels greet you from everywhere. My treasures are the golden clouds at dusk, the soft gleam of the rising moon, birds calling and the cries of creatures in the woods, birch trees, long sandy beaches, rolling hills and mountain paths. These are my heart's possessions, the comforts of my soul, in which it safely rests. Don't pit one fault against another. Just gauge yourself in every step by the timeless, patient laws of nature. It is she who carries you through life. May she be your real home. Then every morning and every evening will find you safely sheltered in your Father's house.
And this guides us so beautifully into the next part of our conversation, which is about Hesse's deep, abiding love of nature. We've talked a great deal about the catastrophe we're in, about the appalling world crisis, about the craziness of our culture. But one of the reasons why Hesse is so important to us is that he knows all of this, but that he's really giving us deep guidance towards the sources of health that can heal us and strengthen us. And the deepest and richest of these is nature, the mother. How do you experience Hesse's vision of nature, and what does it feed you, and what do you believe we need to establish in our new relationship with nature, which is really a revival of an ancient bond?
Well, the idea that we should somehow rise above it is the first thing we need to sacrifice. Right. And then it is really trusting our senses again. At this moment in life, we are, in our times, we are doing a lot of interacting with substitutes.
Right.
And so
cyber substitutes.
Jerry Mander said, television is sensory deprivation. Right. Instead of getting information through immediate and direct perception, where all our senses are involved when we do gardening, or when a painter really looks at a tree for a very long time until...
Or walking through a field and smelling the rain and the mud and seeing the cows and watching the butterflies.
That kind of sensory poverty that we have, perceptual poverty, which is completely, we're in completely denial about it,
Yes.
because that pseudo richness, which is really no richness at all, of what the screen can give us in terms of what is far away, comes seemingly close.
Yes.
That's the word television.
Yes.
In German, the word is Fernsehen.
Yes.
Fern is the word
Far-seeing.
for far,
Yes.
and sehen is the word for seeing. So you see something, and a little bit you hear it too, even though the frequencies that come over loudspeakers give only a fraction of what a human voice actually gives you.
Yes.
But this idea that, you know, there is a more that comes to me from far away, that is actually taking huge possibilities and potentials away of what my senses could give to me in the moment when I plant something, whatever it might be, carrots